Hi, I'm Allie with Storyline Travel. At Storyline Travel, we are family travel specialists. We help families create memorable experiences through travel. And today I'm going to give you our top 5 tips for planning your first trip to Walt Disney World. So I recently got back from a vacation in Walt Disney World, obviously. My husband and I got a chance to take his family on their very first Disney trip. And it was an absolute blast, but we did come away with a few things that we'd like to share for you if you're planning your first trip to Walt Disney World. The first thing is to get familiar with the My Disney Experience app. My Disney Experience is a free app from Walt Disney World that will assist you in not only helping you plan your trip, but also help you with things during your trip. You can use the app to check into your resort and even unlock your door. It will allow you to do things like mobile order food, as well as even just see the menu at some of the different restaurants around the parks. It's also where you will do any of your Genie Plus or Lightning Lane selections if that's something that you choose to purchase for your trip. And the biggest thing that we found ourselves using it for is for checking and monitoring wait times for different shows and attractions during our trip. Getting familiar with the app can save you a ton of time and frustration during your trip. There were actually several instances where we would be on our apps and discussing certain things like checking wait times and menus and stuff. We would actually have people kind of like lean over to us and be like, where did you find that? And so taking some time before your trip to really familiarize yourself with the app can save you a ton of time and confusion during your trip. Tip number 2 is to stay on top of those reservations. Many experiences across Walt Disney World do require reservations, and that doesn't limit it to dining. This can be anything from if you want to build a lightsaber in Galaxy's Edge, to if you have a child that would like to do the Bippity Boppity Boutique. These things do require reservations and they do fill up very fast. So you do need to be on top of it when it comes time for reservations. In addition, you now need a reservation just to get in the park. Having a ticket is not enough. You really want to stay on top of these things so the day doesn't come and it turns out you don't have a reservation and you're left disappointed. In addition, most of these reservations need to be made well in advance of your trip. For example, dining reservations actually will open 60 days at minimum from your trip. So if you're planning your trip in November, dining reservations are going to open in September, and you really need to make sure that you're on top of those because they will fill up very fast. For example, there we had a list of reservations for our trip that we wanted to get, and we were very on top of it. And even within an hour, I think, of our reservation, like dining reservations opening for our trip, most of what we wanted were limited to 1 or 2 reservations left at that time. So make sure you're on top of those reservations. Number 3 is to dress appropriately. If you're unfamiliar with Florida weather, almost any time out of the year you can be guaranteed it's going to be hot, it's going to be humid, and it's likely going to rain a little bit. So our family trip, we actually planned for the first week of November. And if you're almost anywhere else, especially in the US, by the time you hit November, you're like, okay, like it's fall, heading into winter. Not in Florida. Most of that trip, while our temperatures did dip a little bit, most of that trip we found ourselves to be pretty warm. And so most of that trip we were still in shorts and t-shirts. So be sure to check the weather before you leave. It might surprise you. In addition to dressing well for the weather, you also want to make sure that you're wearing very comfortable shoes. I think on our trip, on an average day in the park, we were doing about 10 miles worth of walking. And most of your day, you're going to be spent either walking or standing. So whatever shoes you choose to wear, you want to make sure they're comfortable on your feet and they're already broken in. Comfortable shoes will save your vacation. Number 4 is to set expectations. So I've already kind of mentioned Walt Disney World is huge, both in the literal physical sense, but also in just the amount of things there are to do. From attractions to shows, to characters, dining, and to the resort, there are so many fun things to do. And I want to say this in the most loving way I can, you are not going to be able to do everything. And that's something that I think a lot of people have a hard time understanding if they've never been to Walt Disney World before. And so it's very important to set those expectations ahead of time. You are not going to be able to do every single ride, every single attraction that Disney has to offer. So I always recommend talking with your party, whether it's your family, a group of friends, and trying to gauge everybody's priorities. You know, if you have younger kids, are you going to focus mostly on some shows and character experiences? If you've got teens, maybe you're doing some more of the thrill rides. Talking to them and understanding what priorities are going to be for your party, so that as you're planning each day, you can make sure that those are the things that are at the very top of your list. And if you don't get to some of the things on the bottom of your list, that's okay, because you've done what's really important. Number 5 is to take rests. And number 4 and 5 kind of go hand in hand a little bit. In addition to setting your expectations of what's going to be possible each day, as I said, you're going to be doing a lot of walking, a lot of standing, especially if you're going in the warmer months. It's going to be very, very hot. You need to give your body time to rest as you are going through each day. On our trip, we were very fortunate. We did a 5-day trip. So we did 2 park days, a rest day in the middle, and then finishing up the last 2 parks. And I have to say, it was probably one of the best decisions we could have made, because it really gave us that rest time in the middle to kind of reset, relax a little bit, enjoy our resort, and let us finish our vacation, our last 2 park days, just as excited as we were those first 2. But even if you can't plan a full rest day for your trip, be sure to plan some rest in the middle of your day. That can look like sitting at a few shows back to back, planning an extra long meal, or even heading back to the resort for a couple hours in the heat of the day, just to give yourselves some time to rest and recover some of that energy that you're going to be spending on the rest of your trip. And as a bonus tip, tip number 6 is to consider using a travel agent. If you're planning your very first trip to Walt Disney World and you're starting to uncover some of this information, it can start to seem very overwhelming. And what I've talked about in this video is just the tip of the iceberg. So if you're unfamiliar with Walt Disney World and the booking and the planning process, using a travel agent can be really helpful. We can help walk you through all the processes, help you stay on top of things like when dining reservations come due, and help you to remember all those little details and uncover some of those things that can be really easily missed, that can really take your vacation from good to great. So if you're interested, check us out on our website, send us an email, and let us know how we can help with planning your trip to Walt Disney World.